Hello there, my name is Michael Maynard and welcome back to Gorilla Picking. Now, what you are going to see in the rest of this video, folks, is the first ever pick of a thing called the Ankerslot Infinity K, and it's a lovely, lovely, lovely lock made in Germany, and I can say absolutely without hesitation I would have this on my front door any day of the week. It is a very difficult lock to get open, so it hasn't been picked on camera before, and there is a reason for that. It's not an easy lock at all. So if you have a bit of a look at the pinning here, I'll just briefly show you the core of the lock first. So pretty standard 6-pin lock. Nothing too interesting in the chambers there, they're not countermilled or anything. Decent anti-drill protection there, so really good, and in fact we've got steel pins at the front too as anti-drill protection as well. But the real trick that this lock has up its sleeve is this little hole right here. There's a blind hole there, and what we have got in there is a little magnetic element. So there is a spring thusly, and the magnetic element that sits in there. What the magnet on the key has to do, so if you have a look at the key here, you'll see that there is a tiny little magnet there. What that magnet has to do is pull the pin, the magnetic pin into the core, and that obviously frees up the thing to then turn. The other difficult thing about this lock is the bitting, the keyway. The keyway is pretty jolly horrific. You can see that there, and believe it or not, it's actually even worse than it looks, because there is another piece of warding at this level here, just where my pick is, that starts actually inside the keyway. So it actually starts after the depth of that little piece of magnet there. So this bit of warding that fits in this slot here only kicks in from here down inside the lock. So you've got a ton of warding that you've got to deal with. So not an easy lock by any manner of means for those reasons. Now the other thing that makes this lock special, and God, these had me running around for a while, is these drivers in numbers 3 and 5 here. Now they are not conventional spools, and I'll just zoom in as far as I can without losing the focus on this thing, guys. What we have got here is simply a standard pin that has had a small section in the middle of it turned down to a slightly smaller diameter. So if I maybe put that side onto the camera, you can get a better look at what I'm saying. And so it doesn't set like an ordinary spool, and you don't pick it like an ordinary spool. There's another one, a sort of a shorter one here, as you can see. What actually happens with these things is very interesting. They either engage or they don't. So while you're picking this thing, you will sometimes pick it, and so I've picked it about half a dozen times now, all right? And sometimes these things will click and you'll drop into a tiny false set, which you've then somehow got to get your way out of, which is an absolute nightmare. Other times the lock actually seems to set without these little, whatever you're going to call them, let's call them wastes on the pins, without these little wastes engaging, and when that happens, they almost set like a standard pin. You might get a very faint click, and then another one, and then away you go. So that's the guts of the lock and how the thing works. Like I said, I would happily have this thing on my front door. It's an absolutely gorgeous German lock with beautiful tolerances and beautiful design. The next part of the video will be me getting into it. As always, guys, please comment and subscribe, hit the bell button, and enjoy the pick. Okay folks, well, we are clamped up. The lock operates as it should. There's the key. Distinctly unfriendly bitting, it has to be said. Now, see if we can get this magnetic element set. Okay, I just heard something there. Not sure if I've got that accurate yet. Okay, let's try that. Have increased the tension now because I don't want that magnetic element slipping back down to the back of the lock. Okay, click out of 5. Something's binding halfway down the lock. Okay, not sure what pin that was in all honesty. 4 maybe. Down to the back again. I've still got no real landmarks in there yet. Okay, click on 2. And maybe a click on 3 there as well, although I did drop something in the process. Okay, dropped 4 and just got that back again. Still nothing on 1. Okay, 3's a binder. And I would have said 6 is a binder as well, but okay, yeah, got to click on 6. 1's binding. Click on 1. Okay, nothing resembling a false set yet, folks, which... Oh, and we're open. Okay, we got it without hitting the false set. Man, I'm glad about that. Okay, now let's see if we can get this thing disassembled. So what happened there, folks, was that those 2 hideous damn little pins did not fully engage, and I'm going to lock it back up again. Sometimes that happens. Okay, so let's now strip the thing. We have got the circlip off, and let's get a shim in there. Okay, and from here on it gets a little bit easier. So here you can see our magnetic element is there, and at the moment, because the key's in there, it's being sucked into the lock obviously, so we'll get that out last. We'll get the key pins out first though, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, now if I withdraw that key, we'll be able to get the magnetic element out of there, and there will be a little spring behind that. Okay, so there's our magnetic element. Got one of those in the wrong place. Here's the spring. Okay, so there's our core. Now you can see terrifying bitting on the front there. Lots of drill protection, and then here's the blind hole for that magnet. Now what we've got to do is get the top pins out. That's going to be fairly straightforward. 1 steel for anti-drill protection, 2 another steel one, 3, now this is one of those horrible spools. I don't even think I'm going to call it a spool really. 4 is standard brass, 5 is another one of those horrible security pins, and then the driver in number 6 is just a standard. So there we go guys, first video pick as far as I know. Ankerslot, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Infinity K. sent to me by Oceanaut. Thanks very much, mate. I really appreciate that. It's been a very interesting lock to pick, this one, and I needed to learn some new skills. So, there's the pinning. My name's Michael Maynard. This is Gorilla Picking, and that is the first video pick of the Infinity K. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave a comment.